All right, 11 and 12. Find the exact values for x and y in the triangles below. No calculator permitted. Figures are not necessarily drawn to scale. All right, so we look at the first one here. We've got a right triangle, and we see that we have that 60-degree angle, so we're looking at a 30, 60, 90 right triangle. When we think about the rules for a 30, 60, 90 right triangle, I'm going to kind of just sketch a little one here. It's not the greatest triangle, but don't judge. We've got 30, we've got 60, and 90. Remember, our shortest side is always across from the 30-degree angle, or opposite it. Our middle length side is always across from the 60-degree, and it's always radical 3 times as long as the short side. And our hypotenuse is always twice as long as our short side. So with what we've got here, our y is going to be our shortest side, and then our middle length side is going to be where the x is. And what we know right now is the hypotenuse is 10. Well, since the hypotenuse is twice as long as the short side, right, we know that our 10 should be twice as long as the y. So 2 times y should give us 10, which means that y should equal 5. And since we know that our short side is 5, then we can take that here. We know that our x side here should be n radical 3, so we're going to take our 5 and we're going to multiply it times radical 3, and that should be what our x is. So x is going to be 5 radical 3. Now for problem number 12, we've got a 45, 45, 90 right triangle. Just throw that in there. We know that already, which means it's isosceles. And with our isosceles right triangle, or our 45, 45, 90 right triangle, we know that both legs are the same length, and then our hypotenuse is usually radical 2 times longer than that. Or in other words, we usually multiply our short leg times radical 2 to get the hypotenuse. So if you're going to multiply n times radical 2 to get our hypotenuse length, then we're going to have to go the opposite way to get back to the legs. So we're going to divide our 10 by radical 2 to get the length of one of our legs. So we're going to say here that our y value, right, should equal 10 divided by our radical 2. And let's go ahead and rationalize the denominator there, right? Let's multiply by radical 2 over radical 2. So we have 10 radical 2 over 2, which would be 5 radical 2. So our y is going to be 5 radical 2. Now, since it's an isosceles right triangle, we could go ahead there and then just say that x is also then going to be 5 radical 2. So again, if you're going from the side length to get to the hypotenuse, we multiply times radical 2. If we're going from the hypotenuse back to the leg, then we are going to divide by radical 2. All right, hopefully that helped. If you have questions, bring them to class.